against Texas Tech. Who knows how that works out? Craig, your thoughts about the USFL? We're going to get into some of the names, local football players, and also Baylor, but just the USFL. Did you even know that was going on today?
Yeah, I was the only one tweeting about Baylor guys this morning, and I think that's probably how most people actually found out it actually was going on.
Yeah,
I'm not tooting my own horn, but I looked around last night. There was not a single mention of anything from Baylor football or for any other account, and I had a couple tweets ready to go, and then Chris Platt actually got drafted, I don't know, like 9 o'clock this morning or something weird like that. So he was one that I didn't have right at the time. But, yeah, I had Jake Burton and Jamison Houston tweeted out this morning, and both those guys are now in the USFL, and Chris Platt is as well. So good for those guys. And I don't know if I'm ruining Paul's thing or whatever, but
no.
And a bunch of other Big 12 guys that I guess we'll get to. And, we'll see with this league. It's, a relaunch, but a rebirth in many ways. We know the fabled history of the old USFL. A lot of old-timers will, harken back to that fondly like it was some golden period, but I don't know because I wasn't around for it. But, you hear all these stories from the USFL. Not that it was like some great league that everybody loved, but just it had a lot of interesting stories, whether it be the players on the field or the ownership or the end of it. It's competition with the NFL, what have you. That was a league that in, not a really lengthy amount of time really made a little notch in history for itself.
Yep.
And so that's why you see a league trying to reuse its magic a little bit with the locations and the cities and the league name itself. Although, they are the one playing all their games in Birmingham, right? This first year. So that'll be interesting to see how that works out. But hey, it's another league. I'll admit the AAF and the Spring League and, whatever else is the one little, very brief return of the XFL, those have actually damaged my hopes for anything really lasting because I felt like, there were years where other leagues would pop up and they didn't work out or whatever. But then there was this move and there was a bunch of leagues popping up at one time and then they all just went away almost immediately, or they just have been kind of herky-jerk, kind of like the Spring League is sort of a thing, but not really. You know what I'm saying? It's there, but not many people know about it. But now, hey, the USFL, the XFL returning next year. We'll see if one of these can actually catch on. I'll admit my optimism over that is a lot lower than it used to be, years ago when I thought, hey, maybe a league can come up and actually last for a while. But we'll see. I think the XFL with The Rock pushing it, they're going to do it business-wise, very smart. I think they'll be fine. USFL, we'll see. It seems like they've got pretty good organization, should have good crowds there in Birmingham, and, we'll see after that. But I'm glad these guys are getting another opportunity.
I don't know how much they're getting paid. Zach Smith told me today when I was on the phone with him for a little bit, who will join us in about 20 minutes or so about getting drafted by New Orleans, that he just knew that there was the season started April the 16th. There'll be a training camp. He doesn't know how long. A lot of that still remains to be seen because I'm not sure how many really thought they were going to get drafted. I thought they did a great job with the graphics. Looked like Jack was doing it on the graphics of players getting drafted. Some of them have been in the league a little bit on and off with different teams. And so it'll be fun. Paul, that's going to be your segment at the end of the show, right?
Yeah, there's just a couple. I left all the Baylor and local guys off for the most part and just kind of the bigger names. But
that's why you told me about
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
all right.
But I do think it's interesting. They have – all these leagues now know what not to do. What you need to focus on is not trying to be some sort of competitor to the NFL. That's what Vince McMahon messed up the first time with the XFL, and he thought he was going to invent this brand of football that people were going to like more, and then he stood at the 50-yard line in LA with "This is the XFL," and from that moment on, he looked like a clown when it came to football. He looked like a wrestling. What he is a wrestling promoter, and so nobody took it seriously. It was a mess anyway. Behind the scenes, there were a lot of things going on. USFL. Actually made some strides and some inroads in changing some things that the NFL did, but they made the mistake ultimately of getting too big too fast, and then they let one owner talk them into moving to the spring. I'm not going to mention his name because I don't want the chat room to
No, go ahead and say
Donald
it.
Trump.
It was President Trump. He wasn't then at the time.
But so they let one guy talk him into moving out of the spring and into the fall, and then it just killed him. And so they know now not to do those things. So be a league that has room for the talent that's not in the NFL or the CFL or whatever, and and grow it that way, and don't try to go get. You can't get the Jim Kellys and the Reggie Whites
Kelvin
anymore.
Bryant,
but you can get some good players that wouldn't get a chance to play otherwise. And have a decent football.
What has the NFL done? They've gone 12 months a year.
Yeah.
They've now created even seasons during the offseason, whether it's the combine or it's the draft or whatever it might be. The schedule now becomes a big deal. So there's a thirst for football. College football fans wish the season maybe, I don't know, if you if you want it longer or not, but I think people would love, college football, perhaps to go an extra 2 or 3 weeks or so. Maybe not games, but just the season. So there is a thirst for football. There really is. This USFL is the only league. There was the WFL before that. It's the only league that really caught other people's attention with the names like Reggie White, Steve Young, Jim Kelly, Ricky Sanders, who's played on a Super Bowl team with Washington, and with Kelvin Bryant among Jim Kelly. I mentioned there are some great names, but they were able to pay them good money, and then they got happy. And Craig, you might have mentioned this before. Too many times, these new leagues, we mentioned it to Daryl Johnston, they come in, as you say, Paul, they get a little traction, maybe even more or less than they want, and then they try to expand too quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the case in some leagues, but I don't think that's the case in like the AAF. I mean, they just were who they were, and it's not like they went out and added 4 expansion teams and all of a sudden they were losing money. Like, they were pretty much what they were at the start and at the finish. The new XFL, same way. The new XFL, we'll see how that plays. But again, I have confidence with someone like The Rock and his ex-wife / business partner, who's very talented, very thorough, very good at executing deals. They're a power couple or a power X couple, whatever, but still work really well together. And they've made some huge moves in Hollywood, and this was a kind of an unforeseen move that they made to come swoop up the XFL for pennies on the dollar from his buddy Vince. And they're taking their time, which I think is smart because, they're originally going to launch this year, and they said, no, we're going to push it back an entire year to 2023. Now, you may think, well, shoot, everybody's going to forget about it by then, but I think quite the opposite. I think that just the fact that The Rock's attached to it, they'll create and keep some buzz. They have this little mini partnership now at the NFL that's not on-field stuff. It's just them testing out things, really. But that could come into play in developing other relationships. And, the biggest thing to me, though, with any of these leagues is we hear about them and people like drum up this kind of half-hearted excitement, quite frankly, for it because we all know NFL is king. There's got to be star power to keep me watching. I think there is a thirst for football. I think you're right. But I think that thirst for football can be quenched by video games or betting or doing all sorts of other activities. And ultimately, with those other leagues, who am I watching this for? I'm not watching this because I'm a proud Michiganite or whatever the phrase is, and not trying to be disrespectful there, Michigonian or whatever the phrase is. I'm not just going to start rooting for the Michigan Panthers because of local ties. Like, why am I rooting? Like, maybe if I'm a Shea Patterson fan, then that's why you would root for him. But if that's like your big star power in this league is Shea Patterson and Jordan Tiamu, and like, I'm sorry, but those weren't even really big stars in college football. In the SEC, they weren't even huge stars, or the Big Ten. So that's what I think ultimately is really the Achilles heel of these leagues. The AAF, and then they're trying to get the Johnny Manziel. Like, we got Johnny Manziel. How long did that excitement last?
Yeah.
Like 5 minutes because Johnny turned into Johnny really quickly. So, can they create some stars? That's the big thing. Can you create stars and not just rely on a household name from college football that maybe half the country really knew about, drumming up all the excitement for you?
I would think your best bet, and I know we got to call Zach here in a second.
No,
but
I forgot Herschel Walker.
Yeah.
Kind of the large
USFL,
name in the USFL. Thank you, John.
I think the reason he's running for Senate is because of his connection with the owner of the team he played for, Donald Trump. But but one of the things, there was a league, I don't know if you guys remember this, and this has been like maybe almost 14, 15 years ago, when guys like Eric Crouch and all that had kind of been out of the NFL for a couple years, they tried to start another professional league, but built it in college towns, and they were playing in the spring. There's a Gainesville team and a Lincoln team and a Tuscaloosa team that would play in the off seasons, and they were mostly made up of guys from, or maybe it was Tampa, but it was mostly guys from those regions.
I don't remember anything about that.
College football. But there was guys like, Chris Doring and
Right,
guys
right.
like that who had been out of the league for a minute, which was part of the problem with the old USFL is they went and got guys who had almost retired and had no knees left and said, we need you to come and play in this league. And another reason it kind of faltered, but they did that. So maybe that model, if you don't let them be out of football for a couple years, if you get a college star who's not an NFL guy, I'm thinking about A&M players like a Jamar Toombs or something like that. If you get him, then maybe you can have some
How about,
marketability.
I didn't see Kendall Wright or Corey Coleman. Those guys, some of those guys are back and forth with the Canadian Football League, but again, they're kind of past now their time of when they were stars in college, and they've had their opportunities in the NFL. We need to hit Zach Smith on time. I can't believe I forgot Herschel Walker, so I apologize for doing that. Craig, do you want to make one quick comment in the break?
No, I think we're shutting it down. So let's
All right,
take a
Zach
break.
Smith.
Michigander, I guess, is what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Thank you for passing that along.
Thank you, Stephen. All right, when we come back, Zach Smith.